If you'd attended the 1959 Turin Motorshow, held in the November of that year, you could have seen any number of the most ostentatious and extravagant vehicles Italy had to offer, ranging from the minute Abarth 700S to the sheer exuberance of the Shah of Persia's Maserati 5000 GT. But if you'd looked further than just the cars themselves, specifically at one of the other 490-odd exhibitors, you'd have seen something that caused an even greater stir in the motoring press over the months that followed, yet never became a commercial success despite its revolutionary design. This is the story of the Pirelli BS3, the tyre with replaceable treads. Our story begins in 1934 when a young graduate of Milan's Politecnico University, 24-year-old Carlo Barassi, joins the technical department of the Central Rubber Management Division of the Milanese tyre giant Pirelli. Barassi was soon posted to the company's East African branch, and despite spending the duration of the war in a prison camp, he remained active by creating furniture, toys and other items to make life behind bars a bit less monotonous, as he later put it. This creativity and use of limited resources was later utilised by Barassi during his time at Pirelli during the post-war period. His pioneering use of rubber in items of furniture and even car seats in place of traditional springs formed the basis of what he would patent as Nastro cord in 1948. His interest in alpine skiing also provided the source for invention ideas such as the elasticated luggage retainers for use on roof racks, which we today take for granted and were invented by Barassi in 1950. Despite having been made head of the technology office at Pirelli Tyre's technical department, Barassi's skiing trips were still the source of inspiration for his greatest invention. Tired of having to fit snow chains to the wheels of his car during the harsh winters of 1955 and 56, Barassi returned to an idea created a few years earlier by Giuseppe Lugli, the then head of the physics laboratory at Pirelli Rubber. Lugli had put forward the idea of a tyre where the tread and casing were vulcanized separately and hence were independent of each other and interchangeable. The idea had never caught on, as the changing of both tread and casing were considered unnecessary at the time. The difficulties of winter driving, however, had given Barassi the perfect application for his colleague's idea. For the next 3 years, Pirelli withdrew from motorsport to focus on the tyre's development. The design grew from a two-piece design of just tread and casing into a tyre with 3 separate treads and what was known as un carcassa, a tubeless casing which, when inflated, held the 3 tread rings in place. The greatest feature of all, however, was the ability for the user to fit tungsten spikes between the 3 tread rings, negating the need for snow chains in winter. Unlike a traditional retread, where a new tread is permanently glued or re-vulcanized over a worn tyre, or a recut, where the original tread is cut more deeply into the existing tyre, the BS3 was designed to be purchased in separate and interchangeable parts depending on the user's needs. The main part of the tyre, the carcassa, meaning carcass or casing, cost roughly the same as an ordinary tyre but had no tread itself, only slotted ridges into which the separately purchased summer or winter treads could be inserted with the tyre deflated. Winter treads could also have tungsten carbide-tipped spikes fitted between the treads in place of snow chains in icy conditions. The changing of the treads and fitting of the spikes could even be done with the wheel remaining on the vehicle. The treads themselves were held in place simply by the interfacial friction of the inflated tyre, which, as well as being tubeless, was actually an early radial in design and also had a far greater elastic capacity than that of a modern tyre. This greater expansion was in part brought about by the choice to use a softer rubber than normal for the construction of the casing, both to allow the treads to slip on and off more easily when deflated and also to increase friction between the tread and the tyre. This, however, caused concern that the treads might detach at speed with disastrous consequences. The official launch of the new tyre was held in the autumn of 1959 with a worldwide press conference at the Turin Motorshow, opened by Italian President Giovanni Gronchi. The tyre was now called the BS3 or Battistrada Separata 3 in Italian, literally meaning 3 separate treads. The launch was opened with a presentation film shot on the Cortina ice rink, where an Alfa Romeo Giulietta was pursued by female skaters to demonstrate the tyre's exceptional grip on the ice. Tubeless tyres were still a novelty in the 1950s, and with radials still decades away from the family car, the BS3 must have seemed like the tyre of the future. In fact, in Pirelli's own magazine, it was heralded as a new chapter in the story of the wheel. The tyre was favourably reviewed by journalists around the world, praising its road-holding abilities as well as its low road noise, lack of squeal due to the independent movement of the treads, and also the softer rubber used in its construction. Among Pirelli's claims for the benefits of the BS3 were that a single new tread band would cost 1/8 of the price of a new tyre, and, if the bands wore unevenly due to misaligned wheels for instance, they could be swapped around to even out the wear. It was even suggested that BS3s were more resistant to punctures than other tyres, as each tread ring had its own metal band, which also helped to prevent the closing up of the tread under heavy braking. Pirelli showed films of the tyres in action compared to standard items, which went predictably well for the BS3, showing a straight line stopping distance of 40 feet from 25 mph on the ice rink. Pirelli also produced, when asked by a journalist, a tyre which had travelled 260 miles with no tread whatsoever to substantiate their claims that this could be done in an emergency, and was still preferable to travelling on a normal bald tyre, something highly illegal by today's standards. The Australian magazine, Modern Motor, reported that their correspondent in London, Harold Dovretsky, had been able to change the treads in just over 2 minutes, and that the new tyres foreshadowed a complete revolution in the tyre business. Also reporting from Pirelli's London event was Motorsport magazine, who predicted that there would be a great demand for the sensational new tyre, and stated that Pirelli were already producing the new tyre in metric 155/15 and 165/400 sizes in their main Milan factory. Similarly, the Autocar reported that it was planned that 14-inch by 5.6 and 5.9-inch sizes would be manufactured at the company's Burton-on-Trent plant in the UK commencing in early 1960. Along with the launch of the BS3, Pirelli also announced an agreement with Mario Pavesi's network of Italian roadside restaurant and service stations, Autogrill. Autogrill were to set up dedicated workshops at intervals along Italy's newly constructed Autostrada del Sole, the motorway which links Milan in the north to Naples in the south. These workshops would stock a range of Pirelli products with a focus on a variety of BS3 casings and tread patterns. Some of these facilities were planned to have the ability to transform your BS3s to tackle the snow in complete safety while you drink a cappuccino, dealers were informed. Even a selection of promotional BS3 gifts were planned to be given to customers at dealerships and service stations, including BS3 lapel and tie pins, even extending to safety-promoting toys. An entire range of advertisements were placed in newspapers, magazines, and aired on TV. Pirelli even had posters created by renowned cartoonist Riccardo Manzi, who created numerous works in his minimalist and ironic style. To cap all this, Pirelli provided BS3s to 28 teams competing in the 1961 Monte Carlo Rally. Although 23 of the 28 teams finished, no prizes were secured and the success of the tyres was largely overlooked by the press. It was before this, though, that things had started to go wrong for the BS3. A series of unfortunate issues with the new design became apparent, especially so when, during the Motorsport magazine test of an Auto Union 1000 at the Nürburgring in mid-1960, a tread band detached itself at high speed, resulting in the magazine's production manager losing control of the machine. Pirelli UK's publicity officer, Alfred Wolff, quickly responded to the incident by asking the magazine's editor and production manager to participate in what was termed a searching test to prove the rarity of such an occurrence. The test was conducted on a pair of new Morris Oxfords, one with Pirelli's nylon Extraflex tyres, the other with BS3s. The test, which was held at Oulton Park, progressed well with the journalists waxing lyrical over the superior road holding and quiet cornering of the BS3. This continued up until an 8-inch piece of rubber detached itself from the tyre and began flaying itself against the inner wing. The review concluded positively nonetheless, with the magazine concluding that the BS3's superiority over its traditional counterpart was not undeserved, but the damage had been done. For Pirelli, the BS3 was proving a slow seller, and its limited sizes of 5.5 and 6 inches on 14 and 15-inch wheels reduced the number of cars to which it could be fitted. Although cheaper for the customer in the long term than swapping tyres for summer and winter driving, safety concerns meant users who had not experienced it firsthand were reluctant to risk the expense, as the cost of a casing was equal to that of a new tyre even before purchasing tread bands. Added to these issues, production problems and expenses meant that the time taken to manufacture and separately vulcanise all the components of a BS3 was costing Pirelli more than they could justify. To make matters worse, in 1962, a devastating fire at Pirelli's largest factory in Milan destroyed much of the machinery necessary for the tyre's production. By 1964, Pirelli had quietly ceased production of the BS3, focusing on producing dedicated winter tyres like the future rally-winning MS35. A separate tread tyre did remain in production for a few more years in the form of the plain Battistrada Separata, which, despite many rallying successes, never gained popularity with road users. Ironically, this simpler design of detachable tread was far closer to the original concept put forward almost 20 years earlier by Giuseppe Lugli of having a single removable tread. So that's the story of Pirelli's jack of all trades and master of none, a chapter in the history of the wheel which didn't quite live up to its revolutionary expectations. But if you still fancy a BS3 60 years on, you can always buy one new old stock if your pockets are deep enough. What if the BS3 had caught on though? Would we be used to seeing strange, curled-up bits of rubber by the side of the road, jettisoned from the tyres of passing motorists? Either way, let's just be glad that driving around on treadless tyres isn't the popular sport it used to be.